In this week's video, I'm going to explain how learning to parent my inner child supercharged my transformation in the weeks and months that followed the split from the sociopathic ex. It opened up a huge amount of healing so that I could get to a really balanced place very quickly. My life continued to transform in the most incredible and happy ways. So after listening to this, it's my hope that you will be able to become the best parent you never had. And it may be the beginning of your incredible personal transformation too. Hello, I'm Sarah. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and transformational coach, and I help women get their confidence back after divorce, no matter what they've been through. If you are trying to rebuild your life after divorce, and especially after narcissistic abuse, I don't want you to stay stuck with the memory of the horrors of what you've been living through. Maybe like me, you want to live your best life and don't want to waste any more time feeling bad just for existing. This video, as well as all my other videos, are explaining the roadmaps that I use to get a fast transformation way beyond narcissistic abuse, and I'm hoping they'll be able to help you too, because we deserve to be happy no matter what's happened to us in the past. So stay tuned to catch my new uploads every Friday, and maybe even subscribe to my brand new channel so you don't miss any notifications in the future. So at some point in our lives we learned it was okay to accept mistreatment or worse. And it wasn't our fault. We trusted people who didn't know how to keep us safe and validate us. And that was our past. And we have been living with the shadows of that trauma into our present adult lives. So after divorce, we're in the process of rebuilding and recreating our life. And that means we have to learn what gaps in our early development there have been that made us think it was okay that to accept mistreatment, and that mistreatment sort of became our normal default setting. So our childhood development was crucial for the development of understanding of ourselves and others, and if we didn't receive the right messages, there may well be some gaps or some faulty beliefs of understanding and awareness about how our needs should be met, and should be met healthily by our caregivers. So to progress with healing our inner child, it's logical that we should have a good knowledge and understanding of how to meet a child's needs. And we may already be parents and have some really good grounding of some of the foundations of meeting children's needs, even if our own childhood was less than ideal. But we should make sure we have an excellent understanding of our children's needs if we are to step up to the mark to help our inner child. She deserves no less. And the upside, and there are many upsides to this work of doing this, is that we have to become better parents for our own children, even if they are adult kids now. So a child's primary need is for safety, and children are utterly reliant on their caregivers to provide all their needs for survival. And children are like sponges, and they soak up experiences and they form beliefs about themselves in response to those experiences. They are hardwired to learn in this way to help them develop and to navigate their world and create safety by connecting to their adults. So it's literally about staying alive, and going against our caregivers in any way may mean a complete lack of safety in the group, and therefore we might die. So when at any time those needs aren't met by the primary adult, the child internalises a belief that there must be something wrong with them, and they make this belief because they need to stay connected to that caregiver no matter what. It's a matter of life and death, and it becomes a survival belief. So the caregiver cannot be wrong. So if the caregiver's not wrong, it must be me, the child, that's the issue. And some of the following are quite common beliefs. So it must mean that I have done something wrong. It must be that I don't deserve to have my needs met. It must be because there is something wrong with me that I don't get my needs met. Or it must just mean that I'm not a good enough child, so that's why I don't get my needs met. And various other kinds of beliefs can be formed in this way. And if these experiences that created the belief are repeated over and over again, which quite often is the case, these beliefs form our core identity and they stick. And they are fixed beliefs well into adulthood. So our beliefs create our realities. Now, in the context of narcissistic abuse, we can see that if we were holding on to these core beliefs of being less than in any way, that our life was playing out matching those beliefs. And especially if it came to attracting narcissistic partners as well. In terms of recovery from narcissistic abuse, is that our inner child never went away. She's still there right now. And she's likely to feel the following things. So she's feeling wounded and unloved. She thinks that relationships are harmful and unhappy. She doesn't think she's deserving of any of the good things in life. She doesn't feel lovable, and she just isn't good enough as a person to be loved. So our inner child, facing these very difficult traumas and stresses, guided herself to survive. And in some ways, she was really clever and resourceful to find a way to survive very difficult circumstances. The thing is, though, we want to do more than just survive. We want to thrive. We want our lives to be way better than it was before. And this is our transformation beyond abuse and mistreatment. And I hope you do subscribe to this view that this is possible, because it was possible for me. I didn't want to go back into that old world of abuse and mistreatment. I wanted to create a better future for myself. So if you have children, then you'll know instinctively how to be nurturing and patient, especially if you had a rough childhood yourself. So as a mother, I knew I had had a rough childhood myself, and I didn't want to repeat it for my children. But it really is worth thinking about in detail. Even writing a list can help you to focus your mind on what you want and what your inner child really needs. You are helping yourself become a wise and loving parent. And maybe like me, you're discovering this knowledge almost for the first time. It's okay if we didn't have good parenting role models. How were we to know? So what are our children's needs? Of course, it's physical safety. It's creating meeting physical needs like sleep, food, shelter. Safety is very, very important, but also into the sort of emotional sphere now, emotional love and belonging, connection to others, validation, self-esteem, celebrating uniqueness, creating confidence, respecting and understanding others and ourselves, understanding that boundaries are preferences and that they're understood and respected by others. And there's a sort of spiritual development as well, a connection to life, to play, to be creative, to feel a sense of awe and wonder and connection to life generally. So this can be quite tough to realise that often our needs were not met, and additionally that we were hurt by our primary adults. But I promise you that dedicating your role to become a loving parent to yourself will absolutely supercharge your healing and will take you way beyond surviving, and you'll be thriving in a much shorter timescale than you can imagine. And I know that for a fact because it happened for me. So this is how I got a super fast transformation. It was relatively quick and my life literally turned around and transformed. But the process itself of reparenting your inner child is a lifelong process too, because once you've made that connection, you're never going to leave that child to wonder what life is all about, because you're going to be there for her. So people often say, well, how do I get that connection with my inner child? How do we have a conversation? How do I communicate with my inner child and become a loving parent? So I'll just briefly explain how I do this. So I regularly dialogue with my inner child because she's still here. So especially if I sense something doesn't feel right, I always check in with her. She trusts me enough to let me know what's bothering her, and then we have a conversation about how I can support her to feel better. And I take action on those things, and this is how we have built a strong, trusting relationship. And that was a novel idea for her at first. She had been betrayed and let down so many times, and few adults were safe for her. And even her adult self didn't pay attention to her, but it's different now. So what the kinds of things that I do for my inner child and what you would do for your children, it's what you would do for your own children. You validate her, you recognise her emotional pain or confusion, you help her to regulate emotionally, you soothe her, especially if she's feeling fearful, and you offer reassurance. You might encourage her at times when she's feeling scared or lacking confidence, and you are asking her what she needs to feel happier. And you might facilitate actions that respond to her needs. And you also guide her to make decisions that help her feel better, and assisting her to manage her thoughts and beliefs about herself. And I usually communicate and check in while in meditation. But most often I will journal, and I'll ask her how she's feeling, and I'll literally start a written dialogue on the page with her, and we kind of journal together. So it's a very intuitive process, and you have to allow space for her to make contact with you. It's a beautiful experience, and it's helped me so much on this transformational journey. It's like creating the childhood you never had. And just because we weren't born into a feathered nest doesn't mean that we should be suffering in the here and now. I hope this helps. If this content resonates with you and helps you on your journey to living a joyful life, here's another training that you may be interested in. See you in the next video.